All right, settle in. This is going to feel like a long, honest conversation. The kind you have late at night when you're thinking about money, your future, and that quiet question you do not always say out loud. You know that moment when you get a raise, not the fantasy version where confetti falls from the ceiling and your life instantly changes. I mean the real version. You check your email or your manager calls you in, and they say something like, "We're really happy with your work," and then they drop the number. A little more per month, a bit more per paycheck. And for a second, it feels amazing. You walk out of that conversation taller. You text someone you trust. Maybe you open your banking app later that week and just stare at the balance a little longer than usual. It feels like progress, like proof that you were doing something right. And then, quietly, almost invisibly, life adjusts. The nicer groceries slide into the cart. The random food delivery doesn't feel like a big deal anymore. The "I deserve this" purchases start stacking up. Nothing crazy, nothing irresponsible, just more. A few months go by and one day you realize something uncomfortable. Your bank balance looks exactly the same as it did before the raise. Same stress, same tight feeling near the end of the month, same feeling that you should be doing better by now. Honestly, this is the part where people usually blame themselves. They think they're bad with money, or not disciplined enough, or that they need some extreme budget that makes life miserable. But that's not really what's going on. I know this because I spend way too much time thinking about money, human behavior, and why smart, capable people keep repeating the same financial patterns even when their income goes up. I've watched it happen to friends, coworkers, family members, and yeah, myself too. And here's the thing that most people never get told when they get a raise. A raise is not just more money. It's a moment. A very specific moment where your financial future quietly forks into two different paths. One path looks exactly like your past, just with nicer stuff. The other path looks boring at first, almost underwhelming, but it quietly changes everything. In this video, I want to walk you through what to do every single time you get a raise. Not the obvious advice, not the stuff you already know, the one move that most people skip and then wonder years later why they still feel stuck. If you stick with me, this might change how you see raises forever. Not in a dramatic overnight way, in a slow, grounded, real-life way that actually sticks. So, let's talk about it. Here's something weird about raises. They feel massive emotionally, but mathematically they're often kind of small. Let's say you get a raise of $500 a month. That sounds huge, and emotionally, it is. That's groceries, that's gas, that's breathing room, that's validation. But here's what usually happens. Your lifestyle doesn't jump by $500 all at once. It creeps, slowly, sneakily. Like water seeping under a door. You upgrade one thing, then another, then a few habits shift. And because each change feels reasonable on its own, you never really feel like you're overspending. This is lifestyle creep, sure. You've probably heard that phrase before, but the deeper issue isn't spending more. The real issue is that the raise never gets assigned a job. It just floats. Money without a purpose is almost guaranteed to disappear. Not because you're irresponsible, but because money is emotional. It flows toward comfort, convenience, and identity. You don't sit down and say, "I will waste my raise." You say, "I've been working hard," or "this makes life easier," or "it's not that much anyway." And all of that is true. That's why this trap works so well. Why it matters to you is simple. If you let raises drift, you'll work harder every year without feeling any more secure. That's exhausting, and honestly, it's unnecessary. The takeaway here is not to stop enjoying your money. It's to stop letting raises remain unclaimed. A raise should change something structural in your life, not just your monthly comfort level. Every time you get a raise, there's one move you should make before your lifestyle has time to react. You pause. That sounds almost stupidly simple, but hear me out. Most people mentally spend their raise before they even see it. They picture what it'll fix, what it'll upgrade, what it'll finally allow. What they almost never do is sit with the raise as if it doesn't exist yet. I like to think of a raise as fresh snow. The first footsteps matter. Once tracks are laid down, everything follows them. So the move is this. Before you change anything else, you decide where the entire raise goes on paper. Not in your head, on paper. Or a notes app, somewhere real. You're not deciding how to spend it. You're deciding what role it will play in your life. Is this raise here to reduce stress? To buy time? To create options? To protect future you? Most people skip this because it feels boring. There's no dopamine hit in assigning money to savings or investments, but this moment is where long-term wealth actually starts. Why this matters is because once your lifestyle adjusts, reversing it feels painful, but deciding first feels neutral. Actionable advice here is simple. When you get a raise, do nothing for 30 days. Let the extra money pile up untouched. Then make decisions from a calm place, not an excited one. That pause is powerful. It keeps you in control. You've probably heard advice like save half, spend half. It sounds balanced, responsible, adult. But honestly, it misses something important. Not all money should be treated the same way psychologically. Here's a better approach. Before you even think about enjoyment, split your raise into 3 invisible buckets. The first bucket is future security. This is money that makes your life quieter. Emergency fund, debt payoff, basic investing. This money reduces anxiety even if you never touch it. The second bucket is future freedom. This is money that buys options, skills, investments that compound, things that make you less dependent on your next paycheck. The third bucket is present enjoyment. This is the fun part, the part that makes the raise feel real. Most people reverse this order. They give enjoyment first priority, then see what's left. But if you flip the script, something interesting happens. You still enjoy your raise, but it stops controlling you. Why it matters is because money that reduces fear and increases options has an emotional return far bigger than its dollar amount. Actionable step: automate the first 2 buckets. Make them invisible. Let enjoyment be what remains. People love to talk about discipline with money, willpower, self-control. Honestly, that's overrated. The people who handle raises well aren't more disciplined, they just remove decision-making from the equation. Automation isn't about being strict, it's about being kind to your future self. When money moves automatically, you're not constantly negotiating with yourself. You're not asking, should I save this month every month? It's already done. This matters because mental energy is limited. If your financial plan requires constant effort, it will eventually fail. The takeaway is to build systems that work even when you're tired, stressed, or distracted. Set it once, let it run. Here's a perspective shift that changes everything. The best use of a raise is not nicer things, it's less pressure on your time. That might mean paying off a car faster so you can take a job you like more later, or building savings so you can say no when you need to, or investing so future you has breathing room. Time freedom compounds harder than money. Why it matters is because money is replaceable, time is not. Ask yourself this question every time you get a raise. How can this make my life calmer 6 months from now? That answer is usually more powerful than any purchase. This part is subtle but important. When you handle a raise intentionally, you start seeing yourself differently. You stop being someone who reacts to money and become someone who directs it. That identity shift changes future decisions. You hesitate less, you panic less, you plan more. We like to think money behavior comes from income. It usually comes from identity. Why it matters is because long-term change sticks when it matches who you think you are. Actionable advice: tie each raise to a story about yourself. I'm someone who uses progress wisely. That story matters more than spreadsheets. If you're watching this thinking, yeah, I already spent my last raise, relax. This is not about guilt, it's about awareness. You can apply this mindset retroactively. The next raise, the next bonus, the next unexpected bump. Progress isn't ruined by past decisions, it's shaped by future ones. So, start where you are. That's always enough. So, here's the quiet truth about raises. They don't change your life by themselves. They change your life only if you catch them in that small window before